He loved her. I was jealous.
I was jealous of my best friend. He loved her. 27 years later, the wall revealed what jealousy cost. A Cold Shadows YT original story. Before we begin, welcome to Cold Shadows YT, where forgotten voices break through the silence. If you're drawn to mysteries that refuse to stay buried, you're in the right place. Now let me take you back to a spring day that changed everything. Prologue. The discovery. The sledgehammer struck the rotted wood with a crack that echoed through the empty dormitory. Claire Montgomery flinched, her grey coat pulled tight against the autumn chill seeping through the broken windows of Riverside College's East Hall. "There's something here!" the construction worker shouted, his hand disappearing into the gap between the walls. Claire's heart stopped. She knew this room, room 3C. The room where her best friend Sophia Brennan had slept for the last time 27 years ago, before vanishing into thin air after an end-of-year party in 1996. The worker pulled out a cloth bag, dust cascading like memories falling apart. Inside, wrapped in yellowed fabric, was a leather journal. On the cover, handwritten in faded ink, Sophia M. Brennan, March, May 1996. Claire's hands trembled as she opened the first page. Sophia's familiar slanted handwriting stared back at her. "Someone is watching me. I hear footsteps outside our door at night." Claire laughs when I tell her, but I know I'm not imagining it. If something happens to me, look in the wall. The truth is hidden where no one thinks to search. The room spun. Claire gripped the journal to her chest as tears blurred her vision. For 27 years she'd lived with the guilt of being the last person to see Sophia alive. For 27 years she'd wondered if she could have saved her. Now the wall had finally spoken. Part 1. Spring, 1996. The Triangle. 3 months before Sophia disappeared, Riverside College was alive with the promise of spring. In room 3C, Sophia sat at her desk, braiding her dark hair while Claire sprawled across her bed, supposedly studying but actually watching Daniel read through the window as he played basketball in the courtyard below. "You're staring again," Sophia said without turning around. Claire's cheeks flushed. "I'm not—" "Claire, I can literally see his reflection in your eyes." Sophia turned, a knowing smile on her face. "Just ask him out already. He doesn't know I exist." Claire threw a pillow at her friend. "He only has eyes for you." It was true. Daniel Reed, with his easy smile and golden hair, had been orbiting Sophia since freshman year. He waited for her after sociology class. He saved her a seat in the library. He looked at her like she was the only person in the room. And Sophia? She barely noticed. "Daniel's nice," Sophia said carefully. "But he's not— I don't know. There's no spark." "No spark!" Claire laughed bitterly. "Half the girls on campus would kill for him to look at them the way he looks at you." "Then maybe you should—" Sophia began, but a knock at the door interrupted her. It was Daniel himself, holding 2 coffee cups with an uncertain smile. "Hey, Sophia. I thought you might want some caffeine before your exam tomorrow." "Oh, that's— Thanks, Daniel." Sophia took the cup, her smile polite but distant. Daniel's eyes flickered to Claire for just a moment. "Hi, Claire." "Hi," she managed, hating how her voice sounded too eager. After he left, Sophia turned to Claire with determination. "You should talk to him more. He's actually really sweet once you—" "Don't." Claire held up her hand. "Don't try to fix this, it's fine." But it wasn't fine. And in the weeks that followed, as Sophia began pulling away, distracted, worried, scribbling frantically in a journal she now kept hidden, Claire felt something darker than jealousy taking root. She felt relief. Part 2. The Professor. Professor Marcus Kane had joined Riverside's sociology department that fall, bringing with him an impeccable resume and an unsettling intensity. He was 42, attractive in a severe way, with sharp features and eyes that seemed to catalog every student's weakness. Sophia had been one of his brightest students. At first, "I need to talk to you," Sophia whispered one evening in early April, closing the door to their room with unusual force. Claire looked up from her textbook. "What's wrong?" "It's Professor Kane." Sophia's voice shook. I don't know how to explain it. At first I thought I was imagining things, but... Imagining what? The way he looks at me, the way he finds excuses to keep me after class. Sophia hugged herself. "Last week he asked me to come to his office to discuss my research paper. When I got there, the door was closed, curtains drawn. He sat so close I could smell his cologne." Claire's stomach tightened. "Did he?" "No. But he said something that scared me. He said, you're special, Sophia. Too special to waste yourself on boys like Daniel Reed. You need someone who understands your potential. You need to report him." "To who?" Sophia laughed harshly. "You know how this works. Young female student accuses distinguished professor. They'll say I'm overreacting, that I'm seeking attention, that I'm misunderstood." She wasn't wrong. This was 1996. The world was different then. "I'll come with you to the dean," Claire offered. "I'll back you up." But Sophia shook her head. "I just need to get through the semester. After finals, I'll never have to see him again." That was the plan. But plans, like promises, are fragile things. Part 3. The Other Woman. Rachel Winters had been Daniel's girlfriend freshman year before Sophia arrived. She was beautiful in a calculated way. Blonde highlights, perfect makeup, always dressed like she was expecting a photo shoot. She also hated Sophia with a passion that bordered on obsession. "I saw you talking to Daniel again." Rachel cornered Sophia outside the library one afternoon in late April. Claire was there, pretending to tie her shoe while eavesdropping. "Rachel, I've told you. You're not interested, right? That's why he follows you around like a lost puppy." Rachel's voice dripped venom. "You think you're so special, the quiet, mysterious girl. But I see through you. I don't want any trouble. Too late." Rachel stepped closer. "Stay away from him, or you'll regret it." After Rachel stormed off, Sophia turned to Claire with exhausted eyes. "I don't understand why she hates me so much. I never did anything to her." Claire wanted to say, "Because you have what she wants without even trying. Because people gravitate to you naturally while the rest of us have to fight for scraps of attention." But instead she said, "She's just jealous. Ignore her." What Claire didn't say was that she understood Rachel's anger more than she'd ever admit. She understood what it felt like to watch someone else effortlessly receive the affection you desperately wanted. She understood jealousy, and she hated herself for it. Part 4. The Party. The end-of-year party on May 15, 1996 was supposed to be a celebration. The courtyard of East Hall was strung with lights, tables loaded with cheap beer and pizza, music pumping from borrowed speakers. Claire arrived early, scanning the crowd for Daniel. She'd decided tonight was the night she'd finally talk to him properly. Maybe with enough alcohol courage, she could stop being invisible. Sophia arrived an hour later, wearing a pale green dress that made her look ethereal. Claire watched Daniel's face light up the moment he saw her. "You came," he said, appearing at Sophia's side with a drink. "Just for a little while." Sophia's smile was strained. "I'm not really in a party mood." Claire approached them, her own drink already half empty. "Hey, you two." "Claire," Daniel seemed genuinely pleased. "I was just telling Sophia about the camping trip next weekend. You should both come." Before Claire could respond, Sophia's face went pale. She was staring at something over Daniel's shoulder. Claire turned. Professor Marcus Kane stood on the second-floor balcony of the dorm, looking down at the party, looking directly at Sophia. "I need some air," Sophia said suddenly, setting down her drink. "I'll come with you," Claire offered. "No." Sophia's voice was sharp, then softened. "Sorry. I need a minute alone." Claire watched her friend disappear toward the back of the building, toward the maintenance entrance. She should have followed. She should have insisted. But Daniel was standing there, finally looking at her with something like interest, asking if she wanted to dance. And Claire, guilty, jealous, selfish Claire, said yes. That was the last time anyone saw Sophia alive. This story is brought to you by Cold Shadows YT, where every shadow hides a story waiting to be told. Part 5. The Investigation, 1996. When Claire woke the next morning with a pounding headache, Sophia's bed was empty, untouched. At first, she wasn't worried. Maybe Sophia had stayed with another friend. Maybe she'd gone home early. But when evening came with no word, panic set in. The police treated it as a missing person case, nothing more. Detective Arnold Weber, a tired man in his 40s, took Claire's statement with barely concealed skepticism. "College kids run off all the time," he said. "Usually turn up in a few days with a hangover and a story." "Sophia wouldn't do that," Claire insisted. "Her wallet is still in our room, her ID, her passport, everything. She didn't pack anything. Maybe she didn't plan to be gone long." But days turned to weeks. Sophia's parents arrived from Ohio, devastated. Her mother, Miriam, sobbed through interviews. "She would never leave without calling me, never." The police questioned everyone at the party. Daniel told them he'd talked to Sophia briefly, but she'd seemed distracted. Rachel Winters, questioned about their confrontation, dismissed it. "We had a stupid argument. Girls fight all the time. I didn't hurt her." And Professor Marcus Kane? He claimed he'd been at home that night alone. His wife, a thin, nervous woman named Catherine, confirmed it, though she wouldn't meet the detective's eyes. With no evidence of foul play, no witnesses and no body, the investigation stalled. By October, the case was filed as an unexplained disappearance. Room 3C was cleaned and reassigned. Claire, unable to bear staying in the room where her best friend had vanished, moved off campus. But she never stopped wondering, never stopped feeling that she'd failed Sophia somehow. She'd chosen a boy over her friend. And now Sophia was gone. Part 6. 27 years later. The return. Claire had built a life after Riverside. She'd moved to Chicago, become a marketing consultant, married and divorced, and tried her best to bury the guilt that followed her like a shadow. But when the invitation to Riverside's centennial celebration arrived, she couldn't refuse. Maybe it was time to face the ghosts. The discovery of the journal changed everything. That night, in her hotel room, Claire read Sophia's entries with mounting horror. The journal detailed everything: Professor Kane's increasingly inappropriate behavior, the feeling of being watched, strange sounds in the night. April 18th. "He knows where I live. I saw him outside East Hall yesterday, just standing there, staring up at our window. When I mentioned it to my advisor, she suggested I was being dramatic." April 27th. "Someone was in our room while we were at class. Things were moved. My notebook was open to a different page. There was a smell. Cologne I recognized. His cologne." May 10th. "I told the dean I felt unsafe. She said I needed proof." "What kind of proof? Should I wait until something worse happens?" May 14th. "I'm scared. I've hidden a more detailed account of everything in the wall, behind the loose panel near my desk. If anything happens to me, someone needs to find it. I've also recorded conversations on a tape. He doesn't know. If I disappear, please, someone look deeper." Claire's hands shook as she read the final entry, dated May 15th, the day of the party. "He sent me a note under the door. We need to talk tonight. Come to the maintenance entrance at 11 p.m. Don't tell anyone. I'm going to go. I'll record everything. Maybe if I have proof, someone will finally listen. If something goes wrong, Claire will know what to do. She always does." Claire closed the journal and wept. Sophia had trusted her, had counted on her, and Claire had been too busy dancing with Daniel to notice her friend was walking into danger. Part 7. The basement. The next day, Claire returned to Riverside with a man named Dean Russell, the former dorm manager who remembered Sophia's case. Together, they descended into the basement beneath East Hall, following the maintenance passage that connected to the back of room 3C. It was dark, damp, and smelled of mold and decay. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing old pipes and electrical panels. "This area was sealed off years ago," Russell said, after some students complained about strange noises. They found a metal door at the end of the passage, boarded up and forgotten. When they pried away the boards, Claire's flashlight caught something on the floor beyond, a silver hairpin, the one Claire had given Sophia for her birthday. "She was here," Claire whispered. "God, she was here all along." They called the police immediately. Detective Andrea Salazar, who'd taken over Weber's old cases, arrived within hours. A forensics team descended into the basement, and what they found confirmed Claire's worst fears. Blood. Sophia's blood, confirmed by DNA. A scrap of fabric from the green dress she'd worn to the party, and hidden in a hollowed-out section of wall, a second journal and a tape recorder. On the tape, Sophia's terrified voice. "It's May 15th, around 11:30 p.m. I'm in some kind of room under the dormitory. Professor Kane brought me here. He said if I told anyone about his attention, he would ruin me. Make sure no one believed me. He said I was just like the other girl, the one from 1982. I don't know who he means, but he's not letting me leave. If anyone hears this, please, tell my mom I didn't run away. I was here. I was waiting for help, and I was so scared." The tape ended with a sound like a door slamming. Cold Shadows, YT reminds you, the truth always surfaces, no matter how deep it's buried. Part 8, the truth about Marcus Kane. With the evidence mounting, police tracked down Professor Marcus Kane. He'd changed his name to Marcus Peters, and was living in a remote cabin in Maine. When Detective Salazar and Claire confronted him, he initially denied everything. But when Claire played the tape, Sophia's terrified voice echoing in the small room, something in him broke. "She wouldn't stop," he said finally, his voice hollow. "She kept threatening to report me, to ruin my career. I tried to reason with her, to make her understand that she was overreacting." "You killed her," Claire said, her voice steady despite the rage burning inside her. "It was an accident." He wouldn't meet her eyes. "I just wanted to scare her into keeping quiet. We argued in that maintenance room. She tried to run. I grabbed her, and she fell, hit her head on the pipe. When I realized she was dead." He trailed off, but the confession was enough. Further investigation revealed that Marcus Kane had been accused of harassment by another student in 1982, the one he'd mentioned on tape. That student had committed suicide, and the school had covered it up. Kane had been quietly transferred to another university, where the pattern continued until he landed at Riverside. Sophia had been right. The system had failed her, just as it had failed others before her. Part 9. The other secret. But the investigation uncovered something Claire hadn't expected, something that made her blood run cold. Rachel Winters had been in the basement that night too. She'd followed Sophia to the maintenance entrance, consumed by jealousy after seeing Daniel's face when Sophia arrived at the party. She'd planned to confront her again, maybe scare her. But when she'd seen Professor Kane leading Sophia into the basement, she'd frozen, heard raised voices, heard struggling, heard the sickening thud of Sophia's head hitting metal. And Rachel had run. She'd known Sophia was dead or dying in that basement, and she'd said nothing for 27 years. When confronted, Rachel broke down. "I was scared," she sobbed. "I was only 19. I thought if I told anyone, they'd think I did it, that I'd hurt her because of Daniel." "You could have saved her," Claire said, her voice shaking, "if you'd called for help immediately." "I know," Rachel screamed. "Do you think I don't know? I've lived with this every day, every single day." But guilt wasn't justice. Rachel was charged as an accessory after the fact for concealing a crime. Part 10, Claire's Confession. 3 weeks after Marcus Kane's arrest, Claire sat in Detective Salazar's office for a final interview. "I need to tell you something," Claire said quietly. "Something I've never told anyone." Salazar waited. "That night at the party, I saw Sophia leave. She looked scared. She kept glancing back at the dorm like someone was watching her, and I knew something was wrong." Claire's voice cracked. "But I was dancing with Daniel. For the first time ever, he was paying attention to me instead of Sophia, and I told myself she'd be fine, that she was overreacting like she always did. Claire, I was jealous of her." The words came out like broken glass. "My best friend, and I was jealous, because boys liked her without trying, because professors paid attention to her, because she was special, and I was ordinary. And for one night, I wanted to be the special one." Tears streamed down her face. "If I'd followed her, if I'd just—" "You didn't know," Salazar said firmly. "You were a kid. You couldn't have known what Kane was planning. But I knew something was wrong, and I chose not to see it." The detective was silent for a long moment. "What you're feeling, that's called survivor's guilt. It's normal. But you need to hear this. You didn't fail Sophia. The system failed her. The school failed her. Marcus Kane killed her, not you." But Claire wasn't sure she'd ever fully believe that. Epilogue. The Memorial. 6 months later, Riverside College held a memorial service for Sophia Brennan. A plaque was installed in the campus garden, bearing her name and a quote from her journal. "If someone reads these words, please don't let me be just a forgotten name." Claire stood before the memorial as rain began to fall, holding a white daisy, Sophia's favorite flower. Daniel Reed stood beside her, older now, with gray threading through his blonde hair. He'd flown in from Seattle when he heard the news. "I should have noticed," he said quietly. "I should have seen that she was scared." "We all should have," Claire replied. "But we were too wrapped up in our own dramas to see what was right in front of us." They stood in silence, two people bonded by guilt and grief. "Do you ever wonder," Daniel asked, "what would have happened if things had been different? If we'd all just paid more attention?" Claire thought about Sophia's smile, her laugh, the way she'd always known when Claire was pretending to be fine, the friendship she'd taken for granted until it was ripped away. "Every day," she whispered. "Every single day." The rain fell harder, washing over the memorial, the campus, the ghosts of choices made and unmade. Sophia Brennan was no longer a forgotten name in a cold case file. Her story had been told, her voice had been heard. And the man who'd silenced her would spend the rest of his life in prison, haunted by the words on a tape he'd thought would never be found. Justice had come. Late, imperfect, tainted by decades of silence. But it had come. As Claire walked away from the memorial, she made a promise. She would tell Sophia's story. She would make sure no one forgot. And she would dedicate the rest of her life to making sure other voices, frightened, threatened, silenced, would be heard before it was too late. Because in the end, that was the only way to honor the friend she'd failed. To make sure the walls would never hide another secret again. Author's note. From the Cold Shadows YT team. This story, while fictional, reflects a devastating reality. The silencing of victims who speak out against powerful figures. Sophia's tragedy mirrors countless real cases where warning signs were ignored, complaints dismissed, and young people paid the ultimate price for institutional indifference. The lesson is clear and urgent. Listen, believe, act. If someone tells you they feel unsafe, don't dismiss it. Don't wait for proof. Don't protect institutions at the cost of human lives. Every voice matters. Every warning sign matters. Every silence we break could save a life. Never let anyone become just a forgotten name. See Cold Shadows YT, where silence ends and truth begins. This story is an original production for Cold Shadows YT. Unauthorized reproduction or re-upload without credit is prohibited. The end. Thank you for listening to this Cold Shadows YT story. If Sophia's voice moved you, if Claire's guilt resonated, or if this mystery kept you on edge, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Every story we tell is a voice demanding to be heard. Don't let the algorithm bury them in silence. At Cold Shadows YT, we believe the past never truly stays buried. Join us next time as we uncover another mystery where the voiceless finally speak. What story should Cold Shadows investigate next? Leave your suggestions in the comments below.